it's time to bring in our panel talking about Eli Lilly's earnings and the outlook for the weight loss drug space. Christine Short, head of corporate events research at Wall Street Horizon, a TMX company, and Scott Zari, healthcare director at S&P Global Ratings. Thank you both for being with us. Christine and Scott, thank you. Let's talk about, Christine, what are your thoughts? I mean, Eli Lilly did so well. We talked about Zepbound really helping it along. More thoughts?
Yeah, it was just a blowout report to beat and raise on both the top and bottom line. Really strong results there. I think the three most interesting things I found in the report and the call were, one, their international expansion, which really drove robust growth for the quarter. Like you said, it was those drugs, Zepbound, Mounjaro, the GLP-1s, driving growth, but it was the expansion in places like India, Brazil, and China in the third quarter that just showed the global demand that's out there for these drugs. Secondly, they talked a bit about their oral weight loss drug that will be, hopefully coming to market soon. It completed their phase 3 trials, and they are applying for FDA approval this quarter. That's what CEO David Ricks said. And you can just imagine the opportunities that opens up for the folks that maybe felt it was a little too intrusive to do the injection. A daily pill would certainly allay any of those fears, and I think you'd capture more of the market. Another great thing about that, CEO David Ricks said, was there are some, markets that they can't get into because there are refrigeration requirements for some of these drugs like Mounjaro. And so to have that oral pill form would certainly open that up. And then lastly, they talked a little bit about consumer access and this partnership with Walmart that they just announced. And so going direct to consumer, you can now pick up in-store discounted vials of Zepbound. And that certainly will open up a bit more when you have that oral drug on market. So just getting out there more directly consumer, which I think will certainly help the company as well.
And Scott, I'm sure you have a lot of the same thoughts, also some potential headwinds, and we don't really know whether or not the oral pill is going to get the go-ahead. Pfizer, for example, wasn't able to do it so quickly. Scott, what are some of your thoughts here?
So I echo everything about it being a great quarter. I think at this point, we expect Lilly to have a great quarter, though. We expect them to continue to beat revenue expectations and raise future guidance. So I think this was kind of in line with what we were expecting when we assess our credit rating. I think another positive thing that came out of the quarter was there's been a recovery. When Novo negotiated for a lower price at CVS in exchange for dropping Zepbound from the formulary, there were some concerns about that was dropping the Eli Lilly's share of new prescriptions, but that seems to have recovered rather nicely in the quarter.
And so, Scott, the final thought is just the landscape. I mean, do you think they talked about surging demand? Do you think that this will continue? I mean, do you still think the weight loss drugs continue to have that grabby hold and help this group of names?
Well, I think when you say group of names, it's really just a two-horse race at this point. It's them and Novo. And I think Lilly is clearly jumped out to a lead here. I think competition is going to continue to increase. And you saw that with Pfizer's attempted acquisition of Metsera, and now Novo's jumped back in to try and defend its market position and came in at a higher price. We think competition is going to continue to strengthen. A lot of people are going to enter, but this is a market that's projected to grow to be about $150 billion. So I think there's just a lot of room for potentially a lot of companies to grow, but at least in the near term, it's likely to continue to be Lilly and Novo, and we think Lilly is going to likely be in the front.
And then with the expansion of international, the possibility of the pill, Christine, you really think there is more room to run for a name like Eli Lilly, right?
Yeah, that's what the company says to expect. Like I said, there are folks that maybe wouldn't want to be doing something like an injection. I think you open it up to a lot more of your target audience by offering the pill. Of course, if that gets approval, they seem to feel pretty positive that it will. International, they have just really started with that expansion. But again, global demand is there. And as far as Novo, they don't report till November 5th, but I would agree that with these latest earnings from Eli Lilly, they still continue to seemingly edge out Novo, but we'll see when they report next week.
And what's your outlook on the pharma sector overall, Scott?
Sure. So overall, we have a stable outlook on the pharma sector. I think, like I said, the GLP-1 tailwinds are really unique to those two companies we discussed. The rest of the pharma industry is experiencing probably the most downside risk or headline risk, whatever you want to call it, that we've seen really throughout history here. So, but that being said, there's also been really strong growth and historically low levels of M&A, and that's allowed leverage really for the entire industry, debt leverage, to come down, and that's provided a lot of cushion in our ratings. And when we talk about our outlook for the industry, we're not really talking about our outlook for industry performance. We're really talking about our credit rating outlook here, and we think there's a lot of cushion for the rest of the pharma industry to absorb some of these risks like tariffs or most favored nation pricing if they are implemented.
Yeah, and you did know, Christine, about the medical cost inflation when we widen out the big picture. Some final thoughts, Christine.
Yeah, overall healthcare coming into this earnings season is one of the laggards. As of Friday, they're only expected to report year-over-year earnings growth of negative 4%. So along with energy and consumer staples, it's one of the three sectors expecting negative growth. But one of the bright spots, as Scott pointed out, is pharma, of course, and hospital providers. They've been seeing a rebound in patient volume, so that's helped them. But on the insurer side, although we've seen some great, like United Health revenues look pretty good, it's that pressure on the bottom line, the pressure on profit margins as medical costs increase, and they're seeing increased utilization as well. And you saw that in some of the reports. Molina and United Healthcare both said those same things.
All right. Thank you both. Christine Short, Scott Zari, thank you. Mixed market here for the Dow and the S&P. We have lots of earnings due out after the bell, names like Apple, Amazon, Roku, Western. We're also looking at Coinbase and Reddit, just to name a few.